Hello everyone, our topic is understanding pi. In our team, there are 4 members: 李佳阳、何倩、顾天祥、徐颖. Today we'll mainly focus on exploring what is pi and getting a deeper understanding of the development history of pi. This topic is for students in the 6th grade. We study a version of textbooks before designing the teaching method and find that pi is usually thought as a knowledge point in the teaching of circumference. Many students have no in-depth understanding of the concept of pi. Therefore, we decide to attach great importance to guide students to understand pi deeply. Also, the development history of pi is usually mentioned in current textbooks and teaching. However, such type of explanation and understanding is relatively simple, and students often learn it without too much thinking. Thus, we intend to use a class hour to introduce the development history of pi. In order to help students to better understand pi, we encourage students to personally explore the relationship between circumference and diameter in the hands-on activity, and to know more about the circumscript, regular, quadrilateral, and the increment regular hexagon. Actually, they are encouraged to put forward hypotheses, and meanwhile, all their hypotheses will be evaluated fairly and reasonably. In addition, under the guidance of the teacher, students are required to explore the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter through students' activities. The number is between 3 and 4. At last, they are required to try to give the concept of pi and to consider the use of pi. In fact, pi is the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, and it can be represented by the symbol pi. In order to guide students to get a deeper understanding of the development history of pi, students are required to explore the diameter and circumference of China's ancient books. It is said that around 100 BC, the diameter of China's ancient books is 1 and the circumference is 3. In 263 AD, Liu Hui put forward the cycloporting technology and discovered that pi is approximately equal to 3.1416. More than 5 years later, the Western mathematician can calculate the value of pi more precise than Liu Hui. Several teaching goals of this class are shown as the follows. All in all, we will first explore what is pi and then further explore the development history of pi. We expect that students will be able to know more about pi and get a more in-depth understanding of history methods of calculating the value of pi.
The first lesson. Learning objectives. 1. Explore the relationship between circumference and diameter through hands-on activities. 2. Understand the meaning of pi. 3. Get a preliminary understanding of the method of calculating pi in the history of mathematics. 4. Stimulate students' interest in learning mathematics. Part 1. Warm-up. Students' previous knowledge needed in learning pi is the concept of diameter and perimeter. Therefore, at the beginning of the first lesson, teacher will help students to recap what is diameter and perimeter in form of simple Q&A, and introduce students the unique name of the perimeter of a circle, circumference. Then, there is a hands-on activity for students. 3 circles in different sizes will give to students, and they need to use tools to measure the circumference and the diameter. Teachers should encourage students to try different ways. Through this activity, students will find the longer the diameter, the longer the perimeter. There may have a relationship between circumference and diameter. The aim of part 1 is 1. Review the understanding of diameter and perimeter. 2. Build the preliminary perception of the relationship between circumference and diameter. Part 2. Explore the relationship. There are 3 learning activities in Part 2. In the first students' activity, students should work in 4 people groups. Try to find the relationship between circumference and diameter and discuss with their partners, and also write down their thoughts. Every group should present their work to the whole class. Students will try some different ways to guess the relationship and communicate with each other, and a part of them will find the right direction. The aim of this activity is 1. In the hands-on activity, guess the relationship between circumference and diameter. 2. Encourage students to propose their hypotheses. The second students' activity is explore the relationship between circumference and diameter in using of Asian method by drawing the circumscribed regular quadrilateral and the inscribed regular hexagon under the guidance of the teacher. Students will find the perimeter of the square is 4D, and the perimeter of the hexagon is 3D. Therefore, they will find the ratio of the circumference and the diameter is between 3 and 4. The aim of this activity is to 1. Help students further understand the relationship between circumference and diameter. 2. Help students understand the circumscribed regular quadrilateral and the inscribed regular hexagon. 3. Lay the foundation for the understanding of Liu Hui's method. The last activity in this part is to help students apply their findings. Students will work in 4 people groups and use their own compasses to draw a circle. They will measure the diameter and use the ratio of circumference and diameter they found in Part 2 to estimate the length of the circumference. Finally, they should measure the circumference to verify their answer. After this activity, students will complete the exercise individually. In the last activity, then they know the diameter and estimate the circumference, and in this exercise, the circumference is given and they should estimate the diameter. The aim of this activity is 1. Students can verify their thoughts again after a further understanding of the relationship between circumference and diameter after the last activity. 2. Students can enhance the relationship between circumference and diameter. Part 3. Introducing pi. All the students' activities before is to help students get a deep understanding of pi. And now, it's time to introduce the name of the ratio between circumference and diameter, the pi. Students will read the introduction of pi quietly and communicate their understanding with their partner in whispers. The class need not only the heated discussion but also the quiet thinking. There may have some students who have a lot of knowledge of pi, so it's time to give them a stage to show themselves. Students are invited to tell the whole class the other knowledge of pi if they know, by asking them, "What else do you know about pi?" The aim of this part is 1. After some activities, students have some understanding of the relationship between circumference and diameter. It is a good time for them to read the introduction of pi quietly. 2. Share knowledge with the class can stimulate students' interest and motivation in learning.
For the second lesson, part 1 is the flipped classroom. The learning objective of the flipped classroom is to introduce the famous ancient China mathematicians to the student and introduce to them the Chinese mathematics history. Before the lesson, teacher will share to the student a video about the Chinese mathematics history, especially the mathematician Zhou Chongji. The teacher will use the e-learning platform Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. After watching the video, students should have a briefly understanding of the Salotomic method in the ancient China. For the part 2 of the lesson is the introduction of the class. First of all, the teacher will introduce the famous ancient China mathematician to the students. The teacher will tell them about 100 BC, China's ancient books have been said that in a circle, when diameter is 1 and the circumference is 3. And in 263 AD, Lao Fei has set up cyclotomic method and found that pi is approximately equal to 3.1416. After that, the teacher will tell the student that after over 500 years, the Western mathematician calculates the value of pi more precise than Lao Fei, and then the student will appreciate the ancient China mathematician. Part 3 is to let the student to experience Lao Fei's method. Here, we will use an e-learning method to teach the student. By using the e-learning to teach, the circle cutting method can save much time. Moreover, it can enhance students' learning motivation with using iPad to learn, and the students could experience how to find the value of pi more easily. For the student activity, the student will work in people of 2, and they will use the iPad to go to the GeoGebra Hong Kong, and they will experience how to use the circle cutting method created by Lao Fei. First, there is a demonstration that Lao Fei's method is starting from cutting the circle into 6 triangles. As the triangles is with the length of 1, the estimated circumference is 6. But it is very obvious that the student will all know that the circumference is larger than 6. After that, the student asked to increase the number of divisions of the circle, and the length of each triangle should be calculated by sine 15 degrees times 2. For calculating the length of the triangle, teacher could tell the students that the knowledge will be taught in secondary school, and the students could directly read the value of the length of the triangle in the app's GeoGebra. Also, the circumference and value of the pi could also be read. Part 4 is the discussion of Lao Fai's method. The student can use the iPad to go to the GeoGebra and keep increasing the number of triangles divided. And then the teacher asks the student to observe the value of pi being calculated. After that, the teacher can ask the student to have a discussion in groups that's the value of pi when increasing the number of triangles divided. After that, teacher can ask the student, why should more and more triangles be divided? And the student have the activity to discuss why the value of pi will be more and more accurate when increasing the number of triangles to divide. And after that, the teacher can give some comments to the student's answer and told them when more and more triangles are divided, the total length added should be more and more 10 to the circumference of the circle. And part 5 is something funny about the value of pi the teacher can share with the students as an extension of the lesson. The student can use Putonghua to read the poem below, and the teacher can ask the student what is the meaning of the poem, and at last the teacher can tell the student that the poem actually is the value of pi. And also, the teacher can also share a video to the students that there are some world record of memorizing the value of pi.
Now, let me talk about conclusion. In this lesson, many teaching approaches are used. For example, history and pedagogy of mathematics. In learning, realistic mathematics education and problem-solving method. Now, let's talk about history and pedagogy of mathematics. In this lesson, teacher adopt this method in several times. For example, teacher introduced the famous ancient mathematician and introducing the Chinese mathematics history to students. Students could appreciate the great wisdom of Chinese ancient mathematicians, and it also can pave the way for the new lesson. E-learning approach has also been used. For example, the flipped classroom. It is a pedagogical model in which the typical lecture and homework elements of a course are reversed. Before the lesson 2, the teacher shared a video to the students, which is introducing one of the most famous Chinese mathematicians, Zu Chongzhi, and the Liu Hui's cyclotomic method, so students could have some understanding of the new lesson and arouse students' interests. In addition, teacher used the GeoGebra to let students experience how to use cyclotomic to calculate the value pi. It can save much time in the class and enhance the motivation of students. Apparently, students could experience how to find the value of pi more intuitively. The third approach is realistic mathematics education. The goal of the RME is to turn mathematics learning into a fun and meaningful student experience by introducing questions into the environment. For instance, in the first lesson, teacher designed an activity that students use tools to measure the perimeter and the diameter. Only when students experience the activities of their own can they more intuitively understand the relationship between the perimeter and the diameter. The last method to be introduced is problem-solving method.
Problem solving is a planned attack upon a difficulty for the purpose of finding a satisfactory solution. Problem-solving method can be effective method for teaching mathematics. In general, steps in problem-solving are always identifying and defining the problem, analyzing the problem, formulating hypotheses, testing the hypothesis, and verifying of the results or checking the result. In this lesson, through finding the longer the diameter, the longer the perimeter to formulate a hypothesis. Then measure the perimeter and diameter to find what relationship between them. After that, verify that ratio of the perimeter of circle to the diameter is between 3 and 4 by the perimeter of the circumscribed, regular, quadrilateral, and inscribed regular hexagon. At last, verify again by estimate the circumference. Students experience the whole process of problem solving. They would understand the relationship between perimeter and diameter better.